Welcome back, everyone. Galactic Storyteller here with Jon Bystrom. He is back. 40 years of research. He is an American historian as well as a Mormon history expert. So we are excited to have him back. His first visit with me was a huge hit. We have lots of questions and things that we're going to be responding to. He's got great information for us. We're going to keep digging further. Thank you for joining me again today, Jon.
Thank you, Madeline. You're my favorite person.
I am.
I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited about the interview. I'm like, oh my gosh. Just because the truth is so important, and there are very few people that do it, and you're doing it. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time and your expertise. The last visit that you had, we had lots of good comments and lots of good feedback, and they want to see you again.
Good, because I got a lot more to tell.
Good, good. Let's get started here. Where do you want to start?
Well, immediately, they've got me surrounded, and they've stolen almost all my property. I have no money. I somehow need people to donate in order for me to survive. Now, I have a newspaper that I'm trying to recover. I'm not even going to try to recover the newspaper because I can't run a newspaper in this town. They will kill me. So I want my money so that I can put up a real good website and expose this stuff just straight to the point. Cut out all that advertising crap.
Now, who's they? Are you at liberty to say?
Well, the people that have taken over the paper are the same connected with the attorneys, which is the Crosby Law Firm in Rockford, which are con artists. They have taken a $2,500 retainer from me and are keeping my evidence, which I need to turn in by tomorrow. And I called them several times. I've written them letters, given them ultimatums. They will not. And this is the common thing that attorneys who are protecting the pedophiles, this is what they do. They will say they're going to help you. They'll take your retainer, and then they will not do what they're supposed to do. What they did is they didn't tell me that there was an estate filed for Frank Scheer, who passed away, who was the publisher and editor of the Rock River Times, a newspaper I helped build in 1993. And Frank had a cocaine problem. He snorted $30,000 up his nose. So I'm now trying to recover the $30,000 that he wouldn't pay me or couldn't pay me from 1993 to 1996. So I explain all this to Crosby Law Firm, and they represent that, oh yeah, we're going to help you. I told them that the pedophiles in Rockford who run the courts, to be a judge in this town, you kind of have to be a pedophile, because when these cases come up, you have to protect it. And since I took down a pedophile judge named Harris Agnew in 1996, when we published the affidavit in the story of a 14-year-old foster girl who had been molested, and at that point she was in her 30s, so it was years and years later, but he was now chief judge of the circuit court. We published the information about it. He resigned, 11 days after we printed the articles. But he was never prosecuted. And that tells you right there that pedophilia is the controlling mechanism of the court in Rockford. Now, the state's attorney would have been the one to process that, and that was Paul Logley. Paul Logley he's rumored to be a pedophile, and I'll say right now, I believe he is a pedophile. His best friend is Jack Ward, the person who has targeted me since 1978, when the Vatican Bank and the Mormon Mafia got caught trafficking cocaine in Chicago. They used Watergate to cover up the fact that this was the biggest story in the world. Watergate overshadowed the Vatican Bank scandal in Italy. Well, what happened then is Dallin H. Oakes, who was prosecutor, the banker was David M. Kennedy. They moved to Rockford, Illinois 4 years later. Same cookie cutter. A prosecutor like Dallin Oakes is now Paul Logley in Rockford. And Annie, you're going to have to take a break here. I take in strays. I have 4 stray cats. And, they're the best kitties in the world, but they just
My dog usually wanders around behind me while I Well, I do consults and shows, so it's fine.
Well, they think the best thing is stick their butt in your face and wag your tail in your mouth, and not very fun. But anyway, it's a cookie cutter what they were doing in Chicago, with the Vatican Bank. Now, two of the guys that were involved in that, one of them was hung at Blackfriars Bridge, 1982. I think it was June 17th, something like that. He was found hung at Blackfriars Bridge. His name was Roberto Calvi. He was one of the guys that helped bring BCCI to America, who were the top cocaine and arms traffickers. One of the top clients of BCCI was Adnan Khashoggi, who you can find photographs with Dallin Oaks. The question is, what is Dallin Oaks doing with the top pedophile, arms trafficker, and drug trafficker from Saudi Arabia? I mean, when you follow Dallin Oaks, again, which you're not going to find in Sunday school because this is all protected. You have a pedophile drug cartel running the Mormon church right now. And what you had in the Senate race, the Republican primaries this past summer in Utah, you had Mitt Romney versus Michael Kennedy. Well, you look up Michael Kennedy, you can't find out who he is, but I know who he is, the grandson of David M. Kennedy, who was the one that introduced heroin to America with the Vatican Bank in 1959. They were agents of George Herbert Walker Bush. Now, is it a coincidence that the stake president in 1959 was John K. Edmonds, married to Jasmine Romney? Did you follow that?
We see the same family names over and over and over again, generationally.
Sure, you got the Snows, the Kimballs, the Romneys. Yeah, it's just sickening. It really is sickening because when you track it all, you'll see that these guys are all connected, I believe, to the most satanic pedophile networks the world has ever seen, because nobody knows about the Mormon Mafia.
Yeah.
And to know that Dallin Oaks was the top recruiter in the world for the CIA and FBI. Well, we're finding out now, we're finding out now with all this stuff going on with the Mueller investigation on Trump, how they were accusing Trump exactly what they had done. And it's fantastic that it's coming out. But as you can see, even President Trump can't stop him. He's a billionaire. I'm trying to stop him with zero money. Zero. They got me down to zero. They stole 4 properties. Well, okay, no more than that. They stole the property that I live in, which is secretly owned by Dallin Oaks' son-in-law, Jack Ward, who was the scoutmaster and groomed the pedophile that is the front man, okay? Jack Ward, back in the 80s, was the scoutmaster to the pedophile who now is the front man who, supposedly owns this house, this brownstone, who promised me in 2006 that if I just bought these fraudulent, these bait and switches from them, if I just bought a bunch of properties from them, they'll sell this one back to me. Well, that changed after I bought them all. And then what they did is they sent people from the city. See, the Mormon pedophiles in Rockford, Jack Ward and his agent, Bjorn Hulleberg Jr., they're in bed with the local city of Rockford. And they're in bed because the cocaine laundering is done through the city attorneys. The guy that just stole my building across the street is the city attorney for McChesney Park. They launder the cocaine money through the road bonds. Both of attorney Tom Green's sons are drug dealers, but they're protected. Again, when you follow the politicians here, almost all their kids are drug traffickers, but they're all protected. And in the same thing you got out in Utah. You've got all these pedophile networks with the front men, with the same nepotistic names. You have Michael Kennedy. You have Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is named Willard Mitt Romney, named after the assassin of Joseph Smith, Willard Richards. I mean, this is the most awful thing. And, you know, last time we talked about only 4,000 of the Mormons, you know, the pioneers left Nauvoo to go to, I hate to say this, but it's looking to me like the most stupid people followed Brigham Young. Because you have an IQ deficit in Utah that is unbelievable. I'm here in Illinois. If I can figure it out from Illinois, why hasn't somebody in the church figured it out?
Well, I think there's just such a cover-up. And I do want to make a quick statement about the pedophilia. That is really coming to a head. I have, let's see, right here, I've got this evidence packet that has been sent to me. Ronald Karen, whom I'm going to be doing an interview with. This is just a fraction of the legal documents and the paperwork. And he goes back and he lays a precedent, a historical precedence for pedophilia clear back at the time with Brigham Young, not Joseph, Brigham Young, Willard Richards, Heber C. Kimball, and the introduction of the Cochranite sex rituals, which have been embedded in certain families within the Mormon field. And then that has been going on clear for the last 180 years, and it's still going on today. Massive sex rings. And I know some people have had a cow because I've mentioned that with Monson, also calling him a murderer. Well, we have legal documents that sustain those accusations and prove that these things are true. And as part of that, with the Cochranite sex rituals, that includes under ritual, as long as it's done under ritual with things like washing of the feet, that includes from Brigham Young on up, child rape, child molestation, child imprisonment and slavery, child sex trafficking, child bride trafficking, the falsification of vital and state records, and it continues to go on and on, including interbreeding. So they'll take other women's wives and crossbreed with them while the husbands are still living and fully activated in this sex cult. So
well, and that's
a lot of precedents for this.
That's what my new friend Katrina Hagen has discovered also. She's not Mormon, but she's targeted by these Utah Mormon pedophile rings in Chicago. Annie. I'll be back. Come on. Now this woman is brilliant. Her name is Katrina Hagen. She is absolutely brilliant. She even says in her interviews that the way everybody knows how they target women, but she points out the way they target men is liquidate your assets. Now I want to get these names in here of the people who have liquidated all my assets, except for one property. And the only reason they haven't liquidated that is because the banks won't loan money and nobody wants to buy it and the realtors won't show it. And the people that I have living there refuse to pay me rent now because, again, the city of Rockford and the Mormon pedophiles are in bed together because they launder the cocaine money through the city attorneys and the road bonds. One more thing about the road bonds. The evidence of the Book of Mormon is all being covered up by these same groups. Okay, there are pyramids here in Winnebago County. There's one at Rock Cut Lake that you can see clearly on Google Earth. They dug Pierce Lake to bury this pyramid, and they take these pyramids and they build the roads out of them. They use the pyramids and the mounds for road fill. That's why the attorneys have to keep all this secret of the cocaine trafficking, the pedophilia, and the secret history of the Native Americans. I live in the native land of Black Hawk in the Sauk tribes. I went to grade school about 3 blocks from the first battle of the Black Hawk War, where the Americans turned and ran. They ran from Black Hawk. I mean, I'm a Black Hawks fan. Well, here's my.
There you go.
There you go. I'm a Black Hawks fan. I got friends that are just absolutely, huge fans of Blackhawks hockey, and the city of Rockford actually owns the farm club for the Chicago Blackhawks. It's the most obnoxious thing you ever heard. So tying this in together, I grew up, I went to school just a few blocks from the first Black Hawk War. It's called the Stillman's Run, because General Stillman's men all ran like hell because they got their asses kicked. So there's a nice memorial there showing, what exactly happened. And I just discovered in the past couple of years that I lived on top of a flat top pyramid in Stillman Valley. There was a Mormon bishop here named Matt Sombranowitz, who was a fantastic man, and him and my dad went into farming for a while in Stillman Valley, and he owned this farm, and on the top of the house is on top of a flat, what do they call it? It's an earthen pyramid, but it's a flat top pyramid. It doesn't have a peak on it. We lived on that flat top pyramid and didn't even know it until I went on Google Earth, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Then I found out that my dad was born on a pyramid in Wisconsin. My great-grandfather lived on top of another flat top pyramid. So these things are all over here.
They are, and most people don't know that we have more pyramids in the United States and in China than Egypt does.
That's right.
Giza does not hold, what am I trying to say? The market on that.
Well, and again, this is part of the Masonic cover-up. These are the secrets that the Masons know, and when they get together with their little orgy meetings, and tell the wife that we're just having Kool-Aid, these are the secrets. See, when you look at, for instance, in Winnebago County, if you go on Google Earth, every single quarry is where a former pyramid or pyramid mound stood. So the guy who targeted me in 1978, Tom Meyer, was partners with Jack Ward, the top pedophile banker in town who owned Amcor Bank. Tom Meyer was the campaign manager for the next 5 mayors. He lured me in with a pedophile, what I believe was a pedophile named Richard Busker, a Mormon named Richard Busker, whose son starred in a Hollywood movie just a couple of years later. So you got the Hollywood pedophilia quid pro quo. You let us diddle your boy and we'll put him in a movie. Well, I can't, I have no direct evidence of that, except for the fact that he was the one who lured my brother and I into the Tom Meyer real estate frauds, where the first property that he sold us was one of his Democratic board members on the county board couldn't sell it to anybody else, and so he used. I was still in high school when they lured me in. Now this again is Jack Ward. Jack Ward was partners with Tom Meyer, loaning Tom Meyer a mortgage on the largest cocaine outlet in Winnebago County called Concord Commons. Concord Commons is where a police officer was shot and killed in 2000. His name was Kevin Rice. He allegedly was skimming off the cocaine profits out there at Concord Commons. So when he was murdered, the radio guys, of course, the radio people are all in on this stuff. These guys have more skeletons in their closet than a Halloween costume shop. And this Tom Meyer, he got his mortgage from Amcor Bank. In 1993, Jack Ward becomes the largest shareholder of Amcor Bank. They went belly up in 2010 for self-dealing and fraud. 4 years earlier, Jack Ward could have helped me out when the pedophile judges stole $500,000 from me, when the future mayor, Larry J. Morrissey, who was my attorney, withheld the evidence. The first attorney that was representing my former real estate partner, who was the cocaine accountant for Tom Meyer and Concord Commons, was Brian Larkin. Brian Larkin represented to me that he was the partnership attorney.
Mm-hmm.
He had to recuse himself when I brought out to my new attorney, Larry Morrissey, that he was the partnership attorney. Well, in deposition, Brian Larkin admitted that someone asked him to sue me for them. Well, that person was Tom Meyer. I filed a complaint with the Illinois Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission a couple of years after the lawsuit. Brian Larkin's cousin. This is just like Utah, where it's cousins,
I
brothers.
do not need a whiteboard. I would need to make pie charts and trees, family trees.
It's all families. The Larkin family comes from Elgin, Illinois, where they ran the Elgin Family Orphanage.
Oh, no.
Starting 100 years ago. Now, we know what orphanages have been used for. I don't believe there's one honest orphanage in the country, as far as I know. In England's the same way. You got that, you got that whole story with Jimmy Savile and Edward Heath raping children, satanic sacrifices. It is all coming out. And like I say, what really amazes me is that all these people in Utah that follow, now again, there must be people that have figured this out and were probably murdered, because you can't be that stupid. You cannot be that stupid. Now, I know there are a lot of people that are stupid, but on the average, there's got to be one person that's smart enough to find out. And so those people were probably murdered over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to Tom Meyer, they took me to court 2002. The first thing they did was held court without me. This is a common thing. No, it's not legal, because number one, there's no summons for you to appear, okay? But you have no recourse, because who are you going to complain to? The pedophile judge? The pedophile attorney? Your pedophile attorney that's representing you? He's going to be a pedophile too if you're in Rockford, Illinois. Everybody in the court's a pedophile except you. And then you're going to try to think that you're going to win. It doesn't happen. So they held court without me. The person that doctored the court docket file is Mark Gasparini. He replaced a guy named Ron Koch, who we caught stealing $23 million a year from the circuit clerk's office. The guy that provided the information and the history of that, he went into the circuit clerk's office to a guy named Ron Koch, who was a drunkard,
Mm-hmm.
a complete alcoholic drunkard. And of course, he's probably a drunkard because he was a pedophile and perhaps he didn't want to be a pedophile. But you're forced into it. That's the only way you get a job at these top positions, is if you are willing to have sex with kids, willing to sell your wife, whatever they ask you to do, you do. Well, Ron Koch had
they set you up with honeypots and all kinds of traps and use that for blackmail.
That's right.
You either do it willingly or you do it because you're being blackmailed.
That's right. And almost every woman I've ever gone out with, which is about 10 of them, were sent to me.
Wow.
They were sent to me. The first one was when I was lured into this first property in high school. They sent the best friend of the largest real estate company in town, Gambino.
Wow.
You ever heard of the New Jersey crime family, Gambino?
No, yeah.
Yeah, they're not disconnected. So they sent me this girl named Nina Greidick. Okay, beautiful girl. Her sister was a cheerleader, the whole 9 yards. They sent her after me. They took me to her mother was a Vogue model. Her mother was on the cover of Vogue in the 40s. Absolutely beautiful women. But I go over to Nina's house one day. We're going out, I don't know, to an apple orchard or something, and I see the stepson jump out of bed with the mother. I'm like, ooh, that don't look good. Well, then they tried to get me to marry Nina, okay? So they invite me over to Mrs. Gambino's credit. She has a credit and loan in her basement. So they invite me over to finance a $4,000 diamond ring for Nina. They want me to marry Nina. So Mrs. Greidick and Nina take me over to Bruno's Jewelers to look at their finest, I can't remember, I think it was 3/4 carat. I know nothing about diamonds and still don't. It was $4,000 worth. And so they set me up with Mrs. Gambino and she had a like I say, a savings and loan in her basement. It was called H.O. Purley.
You were young, but you still knew that was shady, right?
Oh, of course, of course. So I signed up for their $4,000 loan. They thought I was going to marry Nina. Well, I invested that in real estate. I did pay them back, but this was the first honeypot they sent to me, okay? I had to repent to go on a mission for what I did with her. But again, I was entrapped. Entrapped. Oh, I like to get away from my parents' house every once in a while and get a hotel room and, just watch TV. And I'm like, well, this is certainly odd, but what do I know about people? I'm 18 years old. I don't know much. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. Well, that's when the action started. And then I had to wait a year. I had to confess to the bishop, had to wait a year because I wasn't going to go on my mission with a dirty conscience.
Did you have a court of love?
No, we didn't. Actually.
You just had to talk to the bishop. Okay.
I just got to talk to the bishop. Oh, yeah. But, as we know that there's a very inconsistent policy in the church of like women who get pregnant, men who, mess around and don't get caught or may get caught. Or there's such a wide variety of ways that the church deals with it. Dallin Oaks got his wife pregnant. Okay.
Whoa, wait a minute. Go back. Say that again.
Dallin H. Oaks got his wife, got his high school girlfriend pregnant. She was in high school. He was, I guess, I don't know, a year out or whatever. Yeah, do the math. Do the math on that. Okay. Now,
I feel like I just got a little sugary treat.
Well, good for you.
And not for the reasons I'm guessing people might think, but because they have this insanely high, ridiculous sexual standard of what we're supposed to adhere to. And this is a perfect example of how the rules don't apply to them.
Oh, it is so evil what they do. I know of some Latter-day Saints in Phoenix where the daughter was excommunicated for getting pregnant. I think she actually married the man, and or maybe she didn't. I don't know for sure, but that is so obnoxious to excommunicate somebody for that. Mm-hmm. If somebody repents or whatever, hey, you know what? That's good enough. It was okay for Dallin Oaks, wasn't it? It was okay.
We had 3 girls in our neighborhood, actually 2 on our block and 1 on the other side of the block. That's not even including the rest of the ward. But we had 3 girls just on those 2 blocks that had children out of wedlock. And the stuff that they went through was unbelievable.
Well, again,
my heart just went out to those girls.
What they do is they torture those girls. Mm-hmm. They torture those people. Because now they got something they can lord over them, okay? Again, I'll bet you $100 that Dallin Oaks' wife never got called in any bishop's office or anything, And they probably
wasn't made to publicly confess either, because these girls, 2 of the girls got up there and talked publicly at testimony meeting about their shame and their repentance process.
Sure.
The other girl wouldn't do it. She wouldn't even go to church, which I don't blame her.
Well, and one of these people that I knew in Phoenix one of the best Latter-day Saint families you will ever know. Their grandfather wrote Spanish hymns that we sang in Argentina as a missionary, and he was the first Mexican missionary who actually knew Pancho Villa. I mean, this family has a pedigree that is the good LDS. Mm-hmm. And they excommunicated her again because they need something to hold over them. They want to lord over us. And again, then you look at Dallin Oaks. They were probably married in the temple. I don't know that for a fact, but the temple's nothing to these pedophiles and these these perverts that are leading the church right now.
Now, you made a comment. I don't know where you're headed next. So if I derail you, get back to where you were going. But you made a comment in our pre-interview about Dallin Oaks being twice nominated for the Supreme Court, and he never even sat as a judge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Will you say more about that? Because I find that absolutely unbelievable.
Well, what you had is George Herbert Walker Bush put together the Mormon Mafia in 1959 when David M. Kennedy began laundering heroin money with the Archbishop of Chicago, Paul Marcinkus. David M. Kennedy's Continental Bank I don't know, how do you word it, laundered or washed all the Catholic donations in the Western Hemisphere went through a Mormon bank, a Mormon-owned bank, Continental, who was in bed with the Vatican laundering heroin and cocaine money. Now, all the Catholic money is going through the same cocaine heroin launderers at Continental Bank, owned by David M. Kennedy, who was the first counselor in the Chicago stake. He was counselor to John K. Edmonds, whose wife, Jasmine Romney. Now, again, fast forward to 2018. Who's running for the Utah primary Republican Senate, for the senator of Utah, the Republican primary between Michael Kennedy and Willard Mitt Romney. Now, again, their relationship goes back to 1959 relatives that began laundering heroin through Chicago. Now, why Chicago? Chicago, because the Illinois relationship of the assassins of Joseph Smith never went away. The first railroad of Union Pacific was in Illinois that went through from the bottom of Illinois, from Cairo to Rockford, to Freeport, to Galena. Now, that rail line was in preparation for the Civil War. Galena were the lead mines. The lead mines in Galena is where they made all the lead, or got all the lead for the bullets. I used to go to campouts in Galena. It's one of my favorite cities. It's where Ulysses S. Grant was from, and about 20 other Civil War generals and officers all came through Galena, because Galena was a huge supplier for the military industrial complex that began in 1862 during the Civil War. Well, in 1830 was when, now you roll it back to 1830, they were preparing for the Civil War then. Mm-hmm. And when you understand that England abolished slavery with the stroke of a pen, we had to kill 1 million Americans for the profit of E.H. Harriman, the owner of Union Pacific Railroad, who was an agent of Kuhn, Loeb and Company bankers 18 miles from Kirtland, Ohio, who were funded by Rothschilds. Harriman's partner then became the Rockefellers, and Brigham Young, of course, after the Saints got out to Utah, promised them if they built the Union Pacific Railroad, they would be paid. Didn't happen. Right. Brigham Young ripped off, because he was the governor and the church leader. You have church and state together. There was no recourse for anybody to go to, because he was it. Mm-hmm. So he ripped off the Saints, never paid them $40 million equivalents in 1868. Wow. That $40 million documented funded the New World Order that we're dealing with today. Really? The Mormon ripoff of Brigham Young is what financed what Joseph Smith said to stop in the Book of Mormon, the secret satanic combinations. You can't get a better prophet that tells you stop the satanic secret combinations, and then they kill him with Willard Richards, namesake of Mitt Romney, Willard Romney. Kill Smith, take over the church, start polygamy, ban blacks, and all that, all the other crap that Brigham Young did. Take the.
But I kind of want to interject right here. That was actually news to me when you and I first started speaking, that Joseph Smith did not institute polygamy. I was willing to listen. I was being open and considering that. Now I'm fully on board. Now, there may be other issues with Joseph, but let's at least exonerate him here, because there's so much evidence to support what you were saying, that Joseph Smith was not a polyandrer. He was not a polygamist. And I actually, in this court document that I have here, I'm going to read a couple of things here. This is from Val Brinkerhoff, and he is a BYU professor of religion and author of, a dozen or more books. But he recently wrote an essay, and this is what he says about changing history. So again, we're seeing more evidence to support exactly what you're saying. Under Young's direction, Richards, Clayton, and others modified church historical documents to make it appear as though the prophet Joseph instituted polygamy secretly among the saints through his sealings while publicly preaching against it. If Young could make it appear that Joseph originated the practice, then he and others would be safe in it. In addition to the words of Apostle William Smith, this is the brother of Joseph, Hiram, and Samuel, the most accurate source of information on Brigham Young and polygamy in Nauvoo and elsewhere is the important work of Ronald Meldon Karen entitled The Exoneration of Emma, Joseph, and Hiram. It is highly recommended. It's not an attack on the LDS people, but an expose. And I want to make sure we're clear about that. We don't do anything with exposing the information because we want to attack. Our goal is completely to get to the truth. Whatever that means, we have to amend our belief systems and the way we think about knowledge according to what truth is coming out. So I'm going to encourage you viewers to do that. Last but not least, it says here, this is an expose on the early spiritual wifery of Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, and Willard Richards, and much more. Its author, Ronald Karen, has ties to the opposing viewpoints on both Mormonism and the community of Christ and utilizes excellent, accurate resources. And this is from Val Brinkerhoff. So,
Ron Karen is also a victim of these pedophile rings.
Yep.
His father-in-law was Elder Mickelson, who apparently did some Spanish translation of the Book of Mormon or the Bible. I can't remember which it was. But, it's so evil. It's so evil what they put Ron through. Ron is a friend of mine on social media. Uh-huh. He is an awesome human being.
I'm excited to talk with him. He's coming soon.
Good, because he is a brilliant human being, and I'm so glad that the things are being revealed for him to be exonerated. As he wrote the book, The Exoneration of Emma Smith, he needs to be exonerated too, because again, he's been slandered by the church because Elder Mickelson was molesting his 2 daughters.
Yep. And said that those 6-year-old girls were seducing him. That's so abhorrent to hear that kind of thing. But you know what I'm hoping, as this information continues to surface, that the LDS people will not continue to put their head in their sands or up there and excuse this behavior the way, and I'm just going to say it, Catholics, you are ridiculous for continuing to support the evil Vatican. And I'm crossing my fingers, I'm praying, I'm doing everything I possibly can to help the LDS people understand this is not a righteous organization. Don't excuse this behavior or say it's 1 or 2 incidences. This has been going on since Brigham Young, and we have evidence of it. Lots of it. Go.
And lucky us, we just had General Conference this past weekend, and I watched Dallin Oaks. Oh my gosh, if people can't see through him. See, I'm an empath, as I'm sure you are. Mm-hmm. You feel things, but I like the evidence too, because I can feel it long before I've got the evidence.
Right, yes.
So once I feel it, I'm going after the evidence. And that's what happened on Dallin Oaks, is that I had no clue that he was the top pedophile in the church. To traffic cocaine like he did in Chicago with David M. Kennedy, you have to be a pedophile. And I saw his talk which isn't really a talk. It's more of a University of Chicago lecture, you know. And of course, he believes he's so brilliant, which is how sociopaths are.
Yeah.
They believe they're so much more brilliant than the rest of us. I felt like he was talking directly to me, and not in a good way. You know, not in a churchy, instructional, my brother kind of, no. He was defending his pedophilia and his cocaine trafficking, telling people, you can't trust what you see on the internet. Don't trust what you see in social media. Oh my goodness. He may as well have been directing it both at us.
Well, I'll tell you, we've seen a number of incidences where general authorities have gotten up and said and announced, you cannot trust the internet. You must only listen to your leaders. We cannot lead you astray.
Oh my gosh, what evil words were never spoken.
Thanks, Hinckley. Wasn't it Hinckley who said that? We will not lead you astray.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Now, again, I'm not against the church. I'm against the pedophiles that have infiltrated the church, because Ezra Taft Benson told me at 12 years old, read None Dare Call It Conspiracy, follow the still small voice, and we need to root these satanic secret combinations, which is the main message of the Book of Mormon, out of the church. Dallin Oaks was fired in 1980 because Dallin Oaks prohibited Ezra Taft Benson from speaking on the most important message of the Book of Mormon at BYU. Dallin Oaks then became the chairman of the public broadcasting system. What? Again, no experience, except he's the top CIA and FBI recruiter for the top pedophiles in the world. That's your qualification for Utah judge. That's your qualification for being nominated twice as U.S. Supreme Court under Gerald Ford in 1975, and then in 1981 under Ronald Reagan. He gets fired from BYU, and he's immediately nominated for a U.S. Supreme Court judge without any judge experience. Now, how does that happen?
I hope the Dems are listening to this. Actually, I hope both parties are, because it's a fallacy anyways. But go back to the history of the Democrats. Okay,
back to Brigham Young. Brigham Young stole $40 million equivalents in 1868 from the Mormon pioneers.
We have some bouncing on the screen.
I'm bouncing. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So Brigham Young, if you need proof that Brigham Young is nothing but an evil Masonic Satanist, just look at the money trail. Mm-hmm. Ripped off the saints. One of the people that had a heart attack and died because his morality couldn't take the fact that he couldn't pay his employees was Ezra Taft Benson's grandfather. Ezra T. Benson had a heart attack. He was a grading contract on the Union Pacific Railroad connecting between the 2 points that met at Promontory Point. Mm-hmm. He had a heart attack and died. So if people want to know how you wake up to the Brighamite lies and the satanic pedophiles that have taken over the church, follow the story of Ezra Taft Benson, because Ezra Taft Benson knew what was going on. He became a prophet, and even he couldn't stop it. So if people really want to stop pedophilia in this world, you've got to get educated, number one. If you're not educated, you're going to be targeted. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen to you. The affinity frauds in Utah, the frauds on the saints is the highest percentage in the country.
Do they know that bankruptcy is number one in Utah?
I would believe it.
It is true. We've got teen pregnancy, porn addiction, bankruptcy, what else?
Psychotropic drug addiction.
Yes, all in Utah. Why?
Those are all derivatives of the lies that people are trying to suppress, and I don't even know if they're trying to understand it. They just accept the lies. And when you accept the lie, your life is going to go to hell. And that's what happens to these people. Their lives are going to hell because they're believing the Brighamite lies and accepting things that they shouldn't accept. You have to ask. That's what the still small voice is about.
Yeah.
You have a doubt, you need to pray about it, and you will find the answers. And if you can't find the answers, find somebody that can help you find the answers, because I believe, like what Dallin Oaks talked about in his talk on Sunday, You know, you can only trust the leadership. There's been such a shift between, you know, you are a sovereign spiritual son of God that Joseph Smith and Christ taught, to the shift of the Dallin Oaks Brighamite lies, which is you can only trust your leaders. Only listen to what we have to say. You're too stupid to understand anything. You have to trust me. You know,
that's why I think this word faith is a dirtier word than fuck. I'm telling you, because it's done so much damage.
Yeah, well, it especially is when people lie and put the gold star on their chart that they read the Book of Mormon and never did. You must have 90% liars in Utah saying that they've read the Book of Mormon. If you read the Book of Mormon and didn't come away with the idea that the secret comment, the satanic, not secret, but the satanic is one thing, pedophilia and child sacrifice. It's not shoplifting at the 7-Eleven. That's not satanic. That's not satanic, folks. So when you accept the lies that these pedophiles that have taken over the church are spreading, your life's going to go to hell. And on social media, the most hateful and evil people are Mormons, active Mormons. They're the most evil.
They've been very threatening to not only me, but to some of the other viewers. So I've had to cut them off, because this is a safe place for you to have a faith crisis, to be able to explore your questions and to seek out answers. We have been taught that the mere act of asking a question is lack of faith. And we should be ashamed of ourselves for wavering in our faith, when the reality is we should be asking questions. We should be seeking these things out. And if they can provide the truthful answers, that's fantastic. If not, then you should be required, at least from yourself, to go seek out these answers by other means. You do what it takes to get to the truth.
Well, and what a coincidence. That's what the scriptures say too. But when you listen to a pedophile leader like Dallin Oaks, you're going to be lost. You are going to be lost.
Now, there are a couple of different categories of pedophile I want to address. Now, there are plenty of pedophiles in the church that they are doing these deviant acts behind closed doors. They're not part of any sort of sex rings. They're just doing this because this is their deviance and it's going on behind closed doors in their own home. Then you've got the pedophile sex rings that are passing around family to family, and there are a certain number of families, whether it's 6 people to 26 people in a coven, as it were, they're participants, and usually you've got the husbands and the wives participating. This is a family generational thing. And then you can add the satanic element on top of that, which now you've got programming, bloodletting, cannibalism, torture, psychological, physical, and sexual torture. You've got breeding going on for the purpose of these babies to be offered up. So there are many different levels. I don't want people to get confused by that. None of it's good, obviously, but just because somebody is a pedophile doesn't mean they're doing this satanic stuff that adds a whole nother level of evil. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Well, and what I've seen happen here is that if you're a pedophile, see, Bjorn Hulleberg, his dad was a pedophile. Back in the 70s, when they joined the church, of course, they were Catholics. And when they joined the church, again, the still small voice told me at 15 years old that poor little girl is being raped by her father. How do I know that? Because she smells like urine. And she cannot hold her bladder. Okay.
Oh, no.
This is why I took pity on Bjorn Hulleberg's family. I always tried to be nice to Bjorn Hulleberg, the guy that's targeting me now, who's the front man for Jack Ward. Bjorn Hulleberg, who molested, allegedly, his stepson. And then the grandmother called the bishop, Jack Ward. And Jack Ward went to his David M. Kennedy Dallin Oaks relationship with Paul Logley, who's the prosecutor in Rockford, also a pedophile. Also, I'll say he's gay, but I don't know if you can say, gay is a bad word to use somebody like that, because these people are evil. A gay person isn't evil. A gay person is a, you know, that's a totally different thing. These people, Paul Logley, he uses gay sex to blackmail people. Okay.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
They use gay sex to blackmail people. And so Jack Ward goes to his relationship, his best friend, who in 1978, Paul Logley came into the Winnebago County Bar Association the same time that Jack Ward did, 1978, the same year they targeted me with Richard Busker to lure us into a building where there'd been a murder. That's why I was lured into that first building, because there'd been a murder there. And they brought us in to launder the ownership. Mm-hmm. So Paul Logley then becomes judge. He's right out of law school, and immediately becomes associate judge because he was being groomed for that state's attorney's position. Okay. Now, another thing about Paul Logley is that he was the president of the National Association of District Attorneys. You have a pedophile, Paul Logley, who is leading all the other prosecutors in the country. You following this?
Yeah.
You talk about just abject evil, evil, evil. Paul Logley had me arrested when we caught the chief judge of the circuit court molesting a foster girl. He had me arrested, and they came and threatened to beat the shit out of me. Now, if I could have punched them both in the throat at the same time, boy, I would have. But they had me, you know, they didn't cuff me, but they traipsed me past the guy whose wife was the foster girl when she was molested. They traipsed me past his cell, who they were holding as a political prisoner. And they said, you know who he is, don't you? With the inferred, don't cover that pedophile story anymore with the judge. So that was Paul Logley that instigated that. The guy that arrested me was Roust Redman, who is now the jailer in Winnebago County. So the next time they arrest me and beat the hell out of me, they'll take me into Roust Redman's jail. So, wow. So that's why I need protection, because I have no money. And let me get my P.O. box in real quick, because...
Yep, go ahead. So viewers, if you would like to donate to Jon, he's going to give some information here. Also, what I'm going to say is I have a place on my website at galacticstoryteller.com where you can do donations. If you guys want to do that and you want to send it to Jon, please just write a little note when you do the transaction, and then that way I can keep track and then send it on over to Jon. But go ahead and give your P.O. box.
Well, and again, I would be totally fine if people could see my stuff on YouTube or Facebook, but I'm shadow banned everywhere.
Yep.
So there's a fraction of people that actually get to see my stuff, and then there's a fraction of people that will even share it or can share it. So this is the way the pedophile network works. And again, this is through the NSA, the NSA Utah Data Center. Who controls that? Again, take a wild guess. The pedophiles who have taken over the church. Dallin Oaks being the top.
I used to live right across the interstate from the Bluffdale Center. So every day when I got on the highway to head to the interstate, I had to look at that monstrosity of a building, and it was in my backyard, basically. So it's a constant reminder, but I'm going to ask you, Utahns, don't get used to looking at it. Don't let it just drift into the background as part of the environment. You need to understand what this building is about and do something. Do something about it.
Well, and as my imagination goes, when Joseph Smith says that it'll be the elders of Israel that will save the Constitution, it's got to be some good people in the NSA that turn on their own. It has to be. And I'm making a plea to you guys out there. You have to turn on the pedophiles. If you're not a pedophile and you work in the NSA, you have to turn on the pedophile leadership of the FBI and CIA, which are also part of the NSA. You have to. There's no other choice. We're creating a world of psychopaths and sociopaths. If we don't, there is no future for your children. I don't care how many books of Mormon you read. I don't care how many Bibles you read. If you don't expose these pedophiles, your children will eventually succumb to it. So one of the things we got to get back to is the Democrat Harriman thing.
Okay, go do that, because I'm going to include the P.O. box in the description box below. So if we don't get to it, that's okay. It'll be in the description box, but go back to the Democrat thing.
Well, let me quickly say that because I need money really bad.
Okay.
They stole $1 million from me over the past 40 years. They took me to court for 4 years, stole $500,000. And then the local Mormons, Jack Ward, Bjorn Hulleberg, Jack Ward's son, banker, let me turn that on. The people targeting me are the top church leaders. Brent Ward, Bishop Brent Ward, who I believe is also a pedophile. You don't get to be bishop in Rockford without being a pedophile. I'm sorry. I even talked with hold on.
Hang in there, folks. This is real life. It happens.
That's my mom checking up on me. She's been helping me out. She's such a trooper because she actually loves Dallin Oaks more than me. So I have to beg her. Mom, please. I'm not going to survive another day without a couple bottles of water and a sandwich pack of some lunch meat, which is what I did over there at her house last night. Mm-hmm. What they do is they target you so bad you can't make a living. They stole all my properties, and right. The people targeting me are Jack Ward, Dallin Oaks' son-in-law.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a genius, guys, to know that somebody who steals your property behind your back with the promise of hey, if you just buy these fraudulent properties from my boy Brent, the boy that was a scoutmaster when I was a scoutman, who I groomed as the pedophile he is, Bjorn Hulleberg. You can't believe what these people will do because they're all protected.
Right. Yes, it is a network. Go ahead and give your P.O. box.
Yes, it's Jon Bystrom, Jon Bystrom, P.O. Box 1951, Rockford, Illinois, 61110.
Okay.
Is that enough zero? I always get that confused, how many zeros and ones. So anyway,
go to the Democrats. We were talking about their history there with Brigham Young.
Okay. There was one thing I really wanted to say. What was it? Oh, okay. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Okay, follow the Democrats. Now, I'm in this day and age, you can't be a fan of either party. Both parties are absolutely rotted. Mm-hmm. Rotted. I support Donald Trump because, number one, he's against the pedophiles and has signed an executive order on December 17th last year to confiscate the properties and the assets of all pedophiles and drug traffickers. Well, that's Dallin Oaks. Wow. And now how much of the church is involved with laundering that money? He may have to confiscate some things of the church too. So you people that sit back thinking that these leaders like Dallin Oaks and Elder Bednar, mm-hmm. Elder Bednar is one of them too.
Including Bishop storehouses, because they use those to traffic their drugs. Right. So right. If you think, viewers, that this isn't applying to you, you're wrong. Because if you're getting church assistance whatsoever, that's going to be gone.
And Brent Ward actually specifically invited me, must have been about 3-4 years ago when he was bishop. He was bishop for about a year. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what happened exactly. Oh, yeah, Jack Ward became mission president in Sacramento, California, the same place that Daniel Stoddard McConkey Jr., the counselor of the new stake president in Rockford, where he was some kind of a prosecutor, and his specialty is taking down large drug cartels. Bullshit. He was the cocaine cartel. Daniel Stoddard McConkey Jr., the son of Curtin McConkey law firm in Utah, which, is the beneficiary of $1.6 billion City Creek Mall in downtown Salt Lake City. I called Curtin McConkie, told him, you got a cocaine cartel running in Rockford using the church as cover. I sent him an email outlining the whole thing to
What
a
did
man
he say?
to a man named Michael Jensen, attorney Michael Jensen. So then I came with a follow-up call. Okay, Michael, let's root these guys out of the church. They're running a cocaine cartel in Rockford. Well, the switchboard first sent me to somebody completely different, and then she sent me to Michael Jensen's what do you call it? The answering machine. Hung up on me. Did it again. Hung up on me. So you don't need to be a genius to figure out that when you send a complete outline of Jack Ward, Dallin Oaks, Bjorn Hulleberg, Brent Ward as the real estate cocaine money launderers here in Rockford, Illinois, and you don't get a response, well, then of course, after I talked to him, then I looked at the roster, and Dallin Oaks is one of their partners at Curtin McConkie. Okay, so you want to know how a gatekeeper keeps the lid on all this stuff? Well, Dallin Oaks is an attorney and partner of Curtin McConkie, the official church law firm, and Dallin Oaks is the law firm partner of Chicago's Kirkland and Ellis, whose U.S. attorney, who's also one of their partners is John Lausch, who is the U.S. attorney in the Northern District of Illinois right now. So if you want to know how you keep the lid, you own the gatekeepers. Mm-hmm. So Dallin Oaks is both a partner with the U.S. attorney, John Lausch, and with the church law firm, Curtin McConkie. So state, church and state right there. That's all you need. Same that Brigham Young was out in Utah. And Dallin Oaks, boy, I tell you, I do not want to ever meet him in a dark alley because I will be going to jail. I will be going to jail. So now that we're on the Brigham Young subject again.
Yeah.
Back to 1868, ripped off the Mormons $40 million equivalents to fund the New World Order. Brigham Young was a Mason. The Masons are the ones that started the KKK. I don't think it's any secret that Brigham Young was a stark raving racist. He what did he say? Anybody who marries an African American should be put to death. Mm-hmm. Now, if anybody thinks that's something a prophet would say, you need to get your head examined.
And any children from that union are to be killed as well.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. You better get them all, huh? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what that tells me. That tells me that there is something very special about black people, because I know there's something special about me, and I got targeted. And there has to be something very special about black people to be targeted so specifically. I mean, that you don't get any more specific than that. Mm-hmm. So Brigham Young rips off the Saints $40 million, is appointed on the board of directors of Harriman, E.H. Harriman's Union Pacific Railroad. Dallin Oaks in 1979 also became a board member of Union Pacific Railroad. You didn't hear that in his talk, did you? Mm-mm. Okay, I won't say that. But Brigham Young, 3 of his sons become board members also of Union Pacific Railroad. Okay, now how many millions of sons did he have? All those guys ended up taking all the positions, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to be the policemen, the whatever they were. They're going to get those positions to keep the secrets of their old man. And Brigham Young's partner then, E.H. Harriman in Union Pacific Railroad, he becomes partners with the Rockefellers. Union Pacific makes an exclusive deal with Standard Oil, owned by the Rockefeller family. The Rockefellers put all their competition out of business through legal and illegal means, whatever they could do. This is the beginning of the New World Order, because the Civil War in the military-industrial complex was made profitable by the Union Pacific Railroad to transport those goods and bads back and forth to the front lines of the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
They made oodles of money off that Civil War. They could have solved it with a stroke of a pen. So when you see the machinations that these evil Brigham Young, E.H. Harriman were involved with. Now, Butch Cassidy used to rob Harriman trains. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Sure.
Well, you know, Butch Cassidy was the son of a Mormon bishop.
Oh, I did not know that.
Didn't you?
No.
Oh, what a great man.
Wow.
He robbed the E.H. Harriman trains with prejudice. Now, as for many,
all of a sudden he's turning into a Robin Hood.
He really was. He really was.
Now.
He really was. You know, and I wonder if perhaps Butch Cassidy's father wasn't ripped off in that Brigham Young affinity fraud in 1868. So E.H. Harriman and Rockefeller become partners in putting out all the competition and making Standard Oil the world oil producer that it is. They then, well, both Harriman and Rockefeller were funded by Rothschilds, the European banking family that took over the Bank of England. What was it, 1799? At when Napoleon lost, they sent a messenger telling the British bankers that Napoleon had won, and so they sold off all their stock at pennies on the dollar to the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds have control of the Bank of England till today.
Right.
So E.H. Harriman and Rockefeller then are two of the founders of the Federal Reserve. Okay, and again, the second chairman of the Federal Reserve is Mariner Stoddard Eccles, whose family built railroad ties for Union Pacific Bank or Union Pacific Railroad. Mariner Stoddard Eccles then was the one who instituted the New Deal with FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR was a Mason. And these guys are all Masons, so you know that they're all pedophiles behind closed doors. Mariner Stoddard Eccles helped create over 600 socialist programs that is now destroying the black community, the white community. The whole country is being targeted by these social programs. See, they steal all your money, and then they come back like, oh, well, let us help you, just like Bjorn Hulleberg and Jack Ward did when they stole the court stole my property, and then they came in to help me. Oh, let us help you.
Problem, reaction, solution. They caused yeah, absolutely. This is classic.
That's exactly what it was. So when you follow Harriman and Rockefellers, the KKK was started by the Masons. Mm-hmm. Okay, the Masons. Albert Pike from Arkansas is the one who started the KKK. And when you follow those who were opposed to freeing African Americans from, let's call it what it is, human trafficking. Mm-hmm. Slavery is a euphemism for human trafficking. You know, you're not just enslaving people, but the children are being molested. The kids of the quote unquote slaves. The kids are being molested. The wives are being molested. Everybody's being molested by the Masonic KKK Satanists.
You know, it makes me wonder why. Well, first of all, I don't understand why there are any black LDS, because if I went back in the history and saw that, I'd be out of there in a New York second. But secondly, I cannot
it proves their saintliness is what it does. It proves how saintly they are.
It boggles my mind. But secondly, I look at the individuals, the black individuals who want to participate in a Masonry organization. What is it? What do they call that? The Prince something. It's the Black Freemasonry organization. Yeah. Do they really even understand what they're doing? What is it about their psychopathy that makes them have to belong to some sort of fraternal organization, let alone belong to one who is hell-bent on destroying them in the first place?
Well, and the reason that...
Is this one of those things where you love your enslaver, your master, and give loyalty to them so that they'll be easier on you in the end? Because they're not going to do that.
Well, that's the end result, is that you're supporting your enslaver. But what they do is, in Rockford, Illinois, the Masons control quite a bit, you know. And so to get ahead in business, to get ahead in all kinds of different ways, people see that there's an advantage belonging to the Masons. You don't hear that the top inner initiates are complete Satanists and will sacrifice your child and eat it.
Oh, yeah. Once you hit level 30, 31, 32, 33, then it's revealed that Lucifer is your god. Yeah, and that whole, don't even get me started on the whole Trayvon Martin deal, because he was sacrificed by his father so that his father could get where he needed to be in the Masonic order. This was his blood sacrifice. Research it, folks. It's not a joke.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
And his heart, I do believe his heart went to, I kind of want to say it was Kissinger.
Oh, my God.
Oh
my God.
If somebody has information on that, let me know. But I'm pretty sure I came across that information that Trayvon's heart was donated to Kissinger.
Wow.
Yep.
Before I finish up,
folks. Yep. Go ahead.
Before I finish up on the Harriman Democrat connection with the KKK, following all the way through, A.H. Harriman's son became presidential candidate for the Democrats in 1952 and 1956. Of course, Kennedy won in 1960, and they offed him. That was Harriman's behind that too. Yeah. So the Democratic Party has been an evil institution, which included FDR with creating the socialist programs, which is nothing but managing poverty, because the Federal Reserve caused the Depression. And then they manage the poverty, just like the Mormon pedophiles, Jack Ward, Brent Ward, Dallin Oaks. Now, Dallin Oaks used to come to town once a month because he was the bag man. Never tell you about that one.
No.
Dallin Oaks used to come to town with the Rockford Institute, and I believe that's once a month. See, once a month regularly, you take a suitcase home of cash. Because you're Dallin Oaks, you don't get checked at an airport. In fact, they'll kiss your ass at the airport.
Wow.
That's how much power these pedophiles have. See, Dallin Oaks was on the board of directors of Rockford Institute, which was earlier something like the Coleman Center for Family Studies or some bullshit. Well, then it became Rockford Institute. The guy that ran Rockford Institute, his daughter used to live downstairs from me. His daughter used to work at the Rock River Times, because those are the people that surrounded Frank and I at the Rock River Times. They surrounded the newspaper, and I'm pretty sure they gave Frank weaponized cancer to kill him. But Rockford Institute, Dallin Oaks used to come to town once a month. Now, Jack Ward told me about this. He told me about this in 1987. No, it might have been 87. When I broke my leg, I got hit by a drunk in 1987. They were going to cut my leg off. Okay. I'm out of it. They got me under anesthesia. I was hit by a drunk in a head-on collision. She turned right in front of me, and I'm going straight. So she was completely drunk. Her blood level was like 0.27. So she was pretty sloshed. So the top of my leg was completely shattered. They were going to cut my leg off. My dad took off work. He worked nights. He came down. He gave me a blessing, and they found a surgeon named Jeff Bear who took those shattered pieces of bones. He said my bones were the hardest he'd ever seen, and my bone is so dense he broke off a carbide drill, which I still have in my leg. But he took the top of my tibia and ground up the smaller pieces, took the bigger pieces, and formed a paste. Now, imagine this. Took hundreds of pieces of my bone didn't crack like a bone usually does, because my bone is so hard it shattered like glass. Wow. Took all that bone, ground up the small pieces, took the big pieces, reformed my leg, and put like an 8-inch stainless steel plate on it, and with about eight 8 to 10 screws, which were about 6 inches long. I'm like, how did that fit in my leg? It seemed like it would stick out. And so I woke up from surgery with Jack Ward, the pedophile Jack Ward, the attorney that trolls the clients. Okay, that's one thing you get when you become an attorney in an LDS ward. Everybody brings you their lawyer work. He's doing wills. He's doing all of it. Okay, he's not a personal injury attorney, but he's lurking over my hospital bed as I wake up from surgery. Okay, I'm all drugged out. Jack Ward tells me, now he's no expert in chasing ambulances, but he's going to chase my ambulance because he has to screw me, because him and the guy that lured me into that real estate deal are now going to steal everything I ever made on that property. So Jack Ward steps in there. If I'd have gotten a good settlement out of that leg, I would have been done with him. But Jack Ward, now when I say criminal, I don't mean he's a criminal attorney. I mean he is an attorney, and he is a criminal. Okay, he's a cocaine launderer.
Right, right.
Just because he's not prosecuted by his pedophile boyfriend Paul Oakley doesn't mean he didn't do it. So criminal attorney Jack Ward is lurking over my bed as I come out of surgery. He tells me, you can't trust your insurance company, State Farm. You have to trust me. So when State Farm comes in with a release to sign, don't sign it. And so they came in a few moments later. Now this has got to be another scam. See, it's probably the State Farm is in on it with the attorneys because they've got pedophiles too. In fact, that woman that was, the first honeypot, her father was the vice president of Kemper Life Insurance. Okay. Now, although he wasn't a pedophile, his wife was. Okay. That guy bawled to me one night when Nina locked herself in the closet, or locked herself in the water closet, the bathroom, so that she locked herself in the bathroom, wouldn't let herself out until her dad bought her drugs. He bawled to me, please marry my daughter and get her off my hands. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I got my $4,000 loan and I'm kind of out of here. Yeah. But so anyway, Jack Ward lurking over me. So don't trust State Farm. Again, whole scam, another RICO. There's so many RICOs going on. So Jack Ward this is when he's telling me, when I go to meet with Jack Ward, oh, you got to come in. We got to look over some bills, He did so little for me. I go in there, I don't know, maybe once every 2 or 3 months and talk to Jack. Well, in those little chats, he would tell me little things, okay? And I have a good memory. Oh yeah. While my secretary's making copies of did you know Apostle Dallin Oaks comes to town once a month, but it's a secret because he doesn't want everybody to know about it. Well, okay, I'll file that away. Okay, it meant nothing at the time. All it meant at the time was that a prominent apostle in the church sneaks into Rockford once a month to see his beautiful family, to have a dinner perhaps with them, and oh, what a wonderful thing. Well, now when I found the money trail, he was on the board of directors of Rockford Institute and the Coleman Family Center for, laundering money. Well, then you put 2 and 2 together and you realize he's coming once a month to collect the cash from Amcor Bank. All right. Wow. So then 2.5 years later, Jack Ward gets me a settlement for my broken leg. Now, my leg has never been the same. I'm never going to have my old leg back. Jack got me $15,000 and he took $40,000. Let me say that again. It's supposed to be the opposite. Jack Ward is supposed to take 1/3 of your settlement, not 2/3, not the 2/3. Right. So what happened? He took 3 times. He got 3 times what I got. Jack Ward is nothing but a criminal, and again,
right. And we've talked about that. He just has a long list of criminal activities. You may need to consider somebody outside of Rockford. I know that may not sound palatable, but it doesn't sound like you have a huge choice in the matter.
Well, there's nobody in Rockford that's going to challenge the cocaine pedophile network.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to have to go outside of Rockford there. On your list of things that we are going to talk about, did we cover everything?
Well, let me finish up the Harriman real quick.
Okay.
Because the Clintons are also a product of George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yes.
Hugh Rodham, of course, was the father of Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton was on the Watergate committee. I put two and two together because when I started following Dallin Oaks a year ago, I looked at everything. Dallin Oaks was the Watergate cover-up artist that hired the returned Mormon missionary who was used as an agent provocateur or plant that infiltrated the Democratic Party in 1972 or whatever, I think it was 72, when the Watergate burglars were left the back door open to the Watergate Plaza in order for the Watergate burglars to go in and implicate Nixon in the Watergate scandal. The whole Watergate thing was to take Nixon down for creating the DEA, which challenged the pedophile, or the cocaine laundering that Dallin Oaks was doing.
Yeah.
David M. Kennedy was doing. David M. Kennedy was the launderer during that, was a launderer during that time. David M. Kennedy's partner, Michael A. Sindona, owned the Watergate Plaza. Michael A. Sindona was poisoned in 1986 in jail after he had been convicted of murdering the two prosecutors that liquidated his bank in Italy. He was put in jail and poisoned. Guess what happened to Paul Marcinkus and David M. Kennedy? Nothing, because they had diplomatic immunity. Their partners were both murdered. So, again, the evil, people who only read their scriptures and only read what the general authorities tell them to read, you guys are sitting ducks, man. You guys are sitting ducks. You have to start reading some of these conspiracy books, like None Dare Call It Conspiracy, but a better one than that even today is one called Rule by Secrecy by Jim Marrs.
Yep.
That book in the book in the last chapter talks about the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki are the ones that may have visited Joseph Smith. Mm-hmm. Because Joseph Smith said that the ones that visited him were flesh and blood. Same thing that James Henry Breasted from Rockford, Illinois, said that he discovered as being the first Egyptologist, who also said that the gods of Egypt were flesh and blood. University of Chicago, where David M. Kennedy was a board of trustees, okay, trust. They throw that name around, trust, okay? So evil, board of trustees. Dallin Oaks was an attorney with a law degree in trust, okay? Mm-hmm. You throw a name like a moniker in front of their name, and these people in Utah roll like bowling pins over for them. It's just incredible. But in the last chapter in Rule by Secrecy, it talks about the Anunnaki. I'm going to reveal something that could get me killed today.
Uh-oh.
You ready?
Be careful.
You ready?
If you're ready, but you're not suicidal, so we know that. Okay.
Oh, no. All the Middle East crap that's going on right now. Now, this isn't me. This is Zechariah Sitchin that says this. If you read the books, you'll get the same story. I'm just going to refer you to what you need, where you need to go to find this story. He wrote a book called Earth Chronicles Expeditions. Mm-hmm. Someone has stolen my book already. Of course, I've read it already, and I could find another copy. But in that book, Zechariah Sitchin, because of the stories that he has translated, he figured out that Mount Sinai, where Moses allegedly met God at the top of Mount Sinai, he figured out that there has to be something going on there. And so he hired a bush pilot. It's restricted airspace in Saudi Arabia. He flew with his bush pilot over there in 1987, and I think in 1990 something, maybe 95. Both times he photographed a huge dome at the top of Mount Sinai. Okay. Now, there are people that believe Moses was actually Akhenaten. You ever heard of?
Yes.
Okay. The son of the Pharaoh. Okay. Led the children out of Egypt. Well, some people claim that that Moses may have been Akhenaten. Well, Moses then allegedly went up to Mount Sinai and got the 10 Commandments. Now, before he got the 10 Commandments, he got a higher law. The 10 Commandments is the lower law. The first commandment, which was the higher law, which would have been more likely towards the New Testament, when he came down the mountain, they were already sacrificing, and they were sacrificing their kids, and I'm sure they were pedophiling them too, pedodefiling them. So when Moses came down, he smashed the higher law. He didn't smash the 10 Commandments. That's the second law that came down. So what Zecharia Sitchin claims is that at Mount Sinai is an installation of the fallen angels. Okay? The fallen angels that slept with the daughters of men at Mount Moriah and begat giants.
So here we have the Nephilim coming in.
Yes, Abraham. Okay. When you read the translations from Zecharia Sitchin, Abraham had sheep. Okay? Now, we're taught in Sunday school and whatnot that he was sheep because he was just a lowly shepherd out there minding his sheep. No, he was a general. Those sheep were to feed his armies. Abraham was the son of the governor of Ur, which was the capital of Sumeria.
Yeah.
The Anunnaki sent Abraham to Mount Sinai to protect Mount Sinai and the Anunnaki installation from the unruly humans who were going to storm it. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
Fast forward, 20th century. Saudi Arabians are the top traffickers of children. Adnan Khashoggi, Dallin Oaks' best friend, is the top Saudi Arabian arms and cocaine trafficker with BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International, okay, who was brought to America by David M. Kennedy. That installation at Mount Sinai is why we are creating a buffer zone. Libya, Egypt, Israel, Iraq.
This has been planned out for many, many years, folks. Just so you know, all these wars are planned out years in advance because of the history. They know that. So they know. Okay, go ahead.
And Israel is all about that. Israel is only a decoy to distract the attention from Mount Sinai, because the Anunnaki, who are there and have been there from time ad infinitum, do not want to be attacked by us unruly humans.
Do you think the Anunnaki there are the ones that are in charge of the deep state and they are the real controllers? Okay. Absolutely. And these are our genetic engineers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they are still there being protected.
The Saudi family are closeted Jews. Now, I don't know if they're the real Jews or they're also Khazarian, the fake Jews.
Yeah, the fake Jews.
But they are admitted Jews.
No wonder they're holding on to this ideology of being the seed of Abraham.
That's right.
And despite the fact that DNA evidence shows that they are not.
Right. And when you follow this, again, look at the buffer zone around Mount Sinai. Okay. All those countries and all those people are being displaced, murdered, whatever, however ways they can torture those people. It's being done to protect the Anunnaki installation at Mount Sinai. Because if we ever find out where they are, what they've been doing to humanity. It wouldn't take much.
So where did you get this information on Mount Sinai?
Zechariah Sitchin. Zechariah Sitchin wrote, like I say, he flew over it twice. And then I just deducted. Make the deduction. Look at the buffer zone around Iraq, or I'm sorry, around Saudi Arabia. We fought this huge war in Iraq where, there were no weapons of mass destruction, all a Bush lie, where Gordon B. Hinckley shook hands with George W. Bush and sold out humanity by sending those troops in there under a false premise of weapons of mass destruction. Let me testify to you and the world. Gordon B. Hinckley is an evil Satanist.
Yes.
If you can't recognize thou shalt not kill, you need to read your Bible again. What he did in selling out the assassination of 1 million Iraqis across, in Iraq, and now the same thing going on in Syria, where they're surrounding Mount Moriah, Mount Hermon, where the Anunnaki the Anunnaki slept with the daughters of men and begat angels at the 33 degree. Okay, you follow the 30th. This is all the secrets.
Yeah.
When you get into the top initiates, they won't even tell you that Mount Sinai is they're not even going to tell you that. We just jumped the whole initiate system of secrecy of the Masons. What they do keep the secret about is the ancient history of America. The ancient history of America is giants.
Yes.
The giants that built the pyramids here. Now, I'm sure the indigenous also built some of the pyramids, but they were the original pyramids in America, and these mounds and all that. A lot of it was built by the giants.
Yes.
Why did they come to America? Because Joshua kicked them out of Canaan. Where'd they go? They came here. They went somewhere. They had to go somewhere, So, and they were also seafarers. And again, this is the secret esoteric secrets of the Masons. Now, again, we just jumped a whole bunch of levels, because you would have to, perform sex acts on, small or large animals in order to get those secrets if you're a Mason. We just gave it to you for free, so you're welcome.
Keep your legs closed. It's not necessary.
So what's going on right now is with Trump, he's stopped that Syrian crap. The refugees being uprooted, bombed out of their homes, uprooted and sent all over the country or all over the world. A lot of people
don't realize that when our troops have gone into Iraq, Iran, these different places, that one of the things they're doing is going into these museums and confiscating all of the artifacts that show what world and American history is. And they're taking all of these artifacts and they're hiding them under the Smithsonian, or they are like with the fossils of the giants, the bones that they recover, they drop them off in the Atlantic.
There you go.
And never to be heard from again. I don't know how if you're the Smithsonian, I don't know how you misplace giant bones anywhere from 7 to 36 feet tall. That's not like losing your keys. These are deliberate acts that they are hiding our history from us.
Well, and one of the secret reasons of climate change, okay? They want to reduce the carbon emissions, right? Well, the carbon is what makes plants grow. The history of this planet is that look at the book of Gilgamesh. It talks about the cedars that grew to the clouds. Okay? That grew to the clouds. There are tree stumps that you can see across the globe that look like mountains that were once trees that are cut down. This is one of the most fascinating things I've learned just in the past 6 months, are all these fossilized trees that were cut down by somebody. Now, see, what they're trying to do is defoliate this planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what climate change and global warming is all about, that Al Gore has tried to inflict upon everybody. I like the Spanish pronunciation of Al Gore, which is Al Gore.
It's perfect.
Well, again, the history of this planet was that this planet had a vapor. It had a vapor layer. This planet was so rich in oxygen and rich in life. And just look at the deserts that we have now, the Sahara, in America we have the deserts. These deserts are not accidental. These deserts are created because they want to defoliate this planet. So again, that whole climate change, which was a democratic, a democratic idea. And when you follow the UN, the United Nations, I read a book in 1995 called Our Global Neighborhood. In that book, it says that in order to fund global government, we need a tax on the environment. Okay? Boom. Global warming is born. Mm-hmm. It also says in Our Global Neighborhood, as the plan of the New World Order, is that private property will have to be eliminated. Mm-hmm. Which means, guess what? Not just blacks get to go back on the plantation, we all get to go back into the Garden of Eden, because the Garden of Eden was a prison. Mm-hmm. The Garden of Eden wasn't a nice place.
No.
Eve did the right thing. Okay. Eve was the good one.
Everything is backwards. Everything about what we've been taught has been turned upside down. So for all these centuries, these thousands of years, it's been Eve who was the bad person for eating the fruit. And really, she was the person with the key to the ship.
That's right. She was the good one. So when you follow all this stuff, you realize that, it is just like you said, it's the opposite of what we're told in some instances, especially when it comes to the history of this planet. So
we're going to have to do a show on that.
Okay.
Will you do that with me?
Oh, definitely.
Let's get into the Anunnaki. Let's get into the Nephilim. Well, let's go all the way back, because so much happened during the Babylonian Canaanite period that shaped what we're doing today. So history does matter, because we're the way we function, the beliefs that we have, the secret societies, the symbols, the 7 sciences, these are all morphed from that time period.
Well, and what a coincidence. That's when the Jaredites said they sailed to America, isn't it? After the Babylonian captivity, or not the Babylonian captivity, but the Tower of Babel in Babylon. Yeah, that's all. There's all a correlation there of the Jaredites coming. Now, if the Book of Mormon is not true, it sure has a lot of things that I find that are rooted in the truth. One thing I would like to say about Joseph Smith before we end this, you constantly hear about Joseph Smith. Oh, the Book of Mormon isn't true because he read the Urim and Thummim out of a hat. I'm like, how do you translate your scriptures? I mean, these stupid people are telling you that, that you can't do that out of a hat. Ugh. How do you do it then? How do you do it? People have no experience with any prophetic anything are going to say that you can't read it out of a hat. Well, maybe you did have to read it out of a hat. And especially with Emma being the first scribe, which I appreciate that correction as last time. Off on my tangent. Emma Smith was the first scribe. Again, the women in the church are completely being suppressed of their spiritual powers. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, I don't claim that she did any hocus pocus that was anything extraordinary, except for just write down what Joseph Smith is telling you is coming out of a hat. They also say that Joseph Smith is wrong because he was a treasure hunter. Let me tell you, there are treasures all over this county still undiscovered. For somebody to be interested in looking for the history, whether it be treasure or whatever it is, that's what I love doing.
Yeah.
I've discovered about 4 or 5 pyramids in Rockford, Illinois, in the surrounding county. Okay.
See my new little find?
Ooh,
I
nice.
love stones and treasures and pyramids. I love those things. I got this in Sedona, so, you know.
What's it made of?
It's copper.
Cool.
Yeah, it's straight up copper. I am going to put out some information on pure copper and the importance of drinking from pure copper, the healing properties of it.
Wow.
So, but this is something that the Native Americans and those from that time period understood. The power of the pyramid.
Here again is another thing that proves the Book of Mormon is possible. Is that the Michigan copper mines in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where they gathered the gold and brought it down the Mississippi, has been proven to be the content of the copper that fueled the Bronze Age. Again, you're not going to hear this from, you know, the mainstream bullshit artists. You're only going to find that out when you read the history yourself. And of course, on YouTube now, you can find a lot of people that are talking about it, but that history has been suppressed. Another thing you find, are you familiar with Baalbek? Baalbek is the same foundation stones as Mount Moriah, where the Jewish temple was built, where today you have the Dome of the Rock.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a landing pad.
Mm-hmm.
The landing pad in Israel, there are 4 100-ton stones that make up that landing pad. You have the same thing going on at Baalbek in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Baalbek is spelled B-A-A-L. Okay? We all know what that is, right?
Yep, we do. Well, anybody who's been a viewer of mine certainly should know who Baal is.
Well, I challenge everybody that's watching this to, number one, research Baalbek a little bit. Go online, just look at the images. You don't have to do any studying. And then go to a place in Wisconsin called House on the Rock. It's the same exact stones, people. Wow. They're cut blocks, except House on the Rock seems to be cut in one of those Masonic, the Masonic cross. What do they call that? What do they call the Masonic cross? There's a name for it. Anyway, it's the Anyway, it's the precursor to the cross of Jesus. It's not a cross like this. It's totally even.
Oh, the Templar cross.
Yes, thank you. The Templar cross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those stones
there is a particular name for it.
Yeah, and it escapes me at the moment, but there's a tourist attraction of a house that's built on top of those same Baalbek style Mount Moriah, Israel stones. It's the same thing. What's that?
Cross of Malta.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Maltese cross. Yep, thank you. So you got the same stones in this country. When I was in Arizona, you could probably go see this on I-93 in Arizona. It's just, it's going north. It's going north from Nothing, Arizona.
Okay.
On the south side of the road, you will see a huge effigy to Moloch Baal.
Really?
Human sacrificial center, right out in the open. I drove past it with a couple of friends of mine a couple of years ago, and the head was gone. Okay, it's got the bull head.
Yeah.
Okay, Baal and Moloch, that had the bull head. I mean, he's also portrayed as an owl, like at Bohemian Grove.
Mm-hmm.
But the bull head is one of the prominent features of Baal, Moloch.
Which is why we have him on Wall Street.
Yes.
Yes.
And the American Bar Association is the American Baal Association.
Yes.
That bar comes
go on forever about this stuff, really, because it's so interlinked.
It absolutely is. And again, that's why it's all being covered up by the Masons and the pedophilia and the drug traffickers and all of it. It's all being covered up because as soon as we find out the truth, we just bit the apple. get out of that. We can get out of that slave.
Oh, how sweet knowledge is.
Oh, it sure is. Sure is.
Really interesting. Well, give us your last parting words for today, because we'll have to do a part 3. You're just a wealth of information. I'm astounded at how you have dates, names, times, all of this stuff logged into your Noodle, and you can just pull it out. It's incredible.
They've been stealing my money for years. That's during the lawsuit. I read all the Zechariah Sitchin Earth Chronicles series. I know money.
Yeah.
I had no money during that lawsuit. That's all I did was read. So, you know, you can either kill yourself or just keep going, and eventually you're going to find daylight. And that's what I figured I was going to do.
Perfect.
And read those Earth Chronicles was the most fascinating thing I've ever read, because, like I say, it correlates. Oh, one more thing I should add to that. I don't want to blow anybody's faith that there is an all-powerful God of the universe. The Anunnaki admitted they posed as gods to us. Okay, and there's good Anunnaki, there's evil Anunnaki. Just like in the church, you have evil leadership, you have good leadership. Of course, the good leadership is being run out of town.
Right.
But even the Anunnaki knew and taught that we are not the God of the universe. Of course, the good Anunnaki taught this, not the bad Anunnaki. The bad Anunnaki are the ones that taught that we're the gods, we're the ones you worship, of course, because they wanted all the spoils of humanity. So the reality is that there's still the God. There's still the God of the universe that we all believed in. Don't lose faith in that, because that's real. And spiritual power is what we seek after here in this life. If we don't seek after spiritual power, you don't have nothing after this life. Right. I've seen the other side. I know that when you die, the measure of your righteousness is going to be in light. The amount of light that you attain in this world will carry over and is the measure of the judgment day. The judgment day is going to happen at death. You're not going to get any, there's no way you're going to get any more good works on earth once you're dead. So once you're dead, the light meter is done. So these people that serve Satan, they have no idea what's in for them in the next life. Now, I think I may have told you before that I astral project, not on purpose. Okay, not on purpose.
Well, everybody does when they sleep at night. So yeah, that doesn't make you some sort of magician. You just, that's a natural thing.
One lesson I learned one night when I was traveling out of body, and I try not to do it. I really try not to do it, but it just happens. I was coming back to my body, and I hit this wall of black goo, solid, dense. I hit that wall as I'm flying back to get into my body. Of course, you're connected by a thin...
Your life cord.
Your life cord. So I'm coming back, and of course, you're going fast. You're coming out. You can go anywhere in the universe at any time, any place. I'm whipping back to my body. I hit that wall, and then I panicked. Because I panicked is why I remembered it. As I'm trying to go through it, I'm like, I'm going to die. This is it, man. I'm going to die. I can't get back in my body. As I was doing that, trying to get through, the voice of God came to me and it said, you have to will yourself through it. And when I concentrated on willing myself through it, I could feel the molecules of that black, whatever it was, going through my spirit body, commingling together. That was just like an electric. It was like an electric, I don't know, like getting electrocuted. It's a bzzz, and you're going through that, and you can feel your molecules commingling, whatever this black crap wall was, until I was through, and then bam, I'm back in my body. Wow. Again, I've had about 30 spiritual manifestations in my life. Each one, you learn something. So if I can impart anything to anybody besides, please send me a donation at P.O. Box 1951, Rockford, Illinois, 61110. It would be that you can will yourself through anything. Don't give up. find somebody that can give you an amen, that can stand in your court, that can do whatever they can for you. Don't give up. Will yourself through it, because you can get through it. If I can impart one last thing, that would be it.
Excellent. Well, I want to say about Zecharia Sitchin, I've read a number of his books, The 12th Planet and a couple of others. He is a Mason, or was a Mason. He was a 33rd degree Mason. So please take that into consideration. Always, always use extreme discernment, guys, because we've talked about this 1,000 times. There's truth, there are lies, there's misinformation. Maybe it's just human error. Like, I'm sure that I've made 1,000 mistakes in all of the broadcasts that I have put out. It's not done intentionally. And then you've got disinformation with people who are willingly, knowingly, and maliciously giving you false information to throw you off track. So you have to have your spiritual life in order. That connection always has to be there with the highest part of you, that divine consciousness aspect, to be your barometer as you go through this world, because it is so filled with lies and evil. And for those of us who truly have a desire to have the highest spiritual vibration, you've got to employ that 24/7, especially as you dig for the truth, because there are a lot of lies out there.
Amen.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much, Jon. We're going to speak again because there's so much to cover. We'll go over the Anunnaki in greater detail. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Please send Jon a donation if you can to his P.O. box. If you want to send it to me, make a little note in the description that lets me know that this money is for Jon, and I will make sure that he gets that. Thanks so much for joining us. You can reach me at galacticstoryteller@gmail.com. Do all your like and subscribes and thumbprints and all of that fun jazz. So that really helps us on the rating and the search. So you guys are great. Take care. I appreciate you guys that subscribe, and I appreciate your time today, Jon. We'll talk to you later.
Madeline.
You're
welcome.
You. I love you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.